Hello everyone, this is Will here. This is video number 3 in my mini-series, Corn Snake Care. This is going to be about housing your corn snake. Before I get started, I just want to say though, is that I'm giving you guys information based off my experiences and my knowledge. There's a million different ways to do any one thing, so please do not criticize my videos. You may have found a better way to do something than I have. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear your feedbacks, comments down below. Just please don't criticize my video. These are based off my knowledge and my experience, and I'm trying to share it with you guys. So without any more delay, here's video number 3, Corn Snake Care, housing your corn snake. Alright everyone, I just want to start off by saying that I'm using some of my newer technology as I stated in my update video. I am wearing a lavalier mic. I'm trying to make the best quality videos for you guys as you guys watch them. That's my main goal for this. So hopefully it works out. Just leave any comments down below about what you think about it, if it was worth it or not. So that's one thing. Now when we get started into talking about your corn snake cages, there's a few things you gotta look at. One is being the size of the collection that you will be handling with. If you have one corn snake, you gotta make sure you have enough room for the one. And you gotta remember, corn snakes as adults get 3 to 5 feet long, occasionally more than that. So you wanna make sure you have enough room for at least the corn snakes you're gonna keep as adults. Because the bigger they are, sometimes it's a little bit harder to get rid of them. That's one thing you gotta remember. As I said before too, is the size of the collection. If you're gonna be breeding them and having possibly 30, 40, 50 corn snakes, you gotta make sure that you have enough room for all that. For that situation, your best bet is probably getting corn snake racks or snake racks to use. So let me talk about a little bit of these enclosures. First up is the old aquariums, terrariums, if I'm saying that correctly. These are basically glass, 4 sides of it, and basically it's just really nice to have because you could put the tank in the center of the room, in the side of the room, wherever, and really get to see the snake from all different sides of the tank. That's one benefit of it. Another benefit is the price range for this. The aquariums or tanks for 10 gallon, most of the time you could get for about $20. It depends where you go. A chain store might sell for cheaper. Your local pet store may sell it for a little bit more because they're a local shop, not a chain store. So let's say 10 gallon might be $20, and then the $150 tank I got was a 75 gallon tank. So it worked out pretty nice. They got all different types of these cages. I know PetSmart where I live has all different shapes, sizes, everything. You do want to avoid tall cages with corn snakes. Corn snakes don't really tend to climb a lot. Your best bet is to get a tank that has a lot of ground room in it so that the snake can burrow and all that stuff. They're not really a climbing snake. You can have a couple things in your tank for your corn snake to climb. Next I want to talk about is custom cages. Custom cages are readily available online, or you can make them yourself. You can look online also and look up plans on how to build a nice custom tank for yourself. It all depends on what you're looking for. Custom tanks, I've seen them run from anywhere a couple hundred to a couple thousand. Depends the size of the tank, how much work's put into it, but they're really nice. But you could do it yourself for a lot cheaper than that, and make it just as nice. You might need to, you might have an area where it's a little odd shape that you want to put your tank in. You custom design yourself and make it how you want it. Put shelves on the bottom of it, build a stand, maybe put the tank in a wall. I don't know, a million different ways to custom build a tank nowadays. You can also use a breeding rack, as I said before. These run a couple hundred again to a couple thousand, depends on how big of a system you're going to be using. I built my own custom snake rack, and it cost me about $100 to $150. It depends what size tubs you're going to use for this system too. the bigger the tubs, the more expensive they could get. You could get them as cheap as maybe 50 cents a tub if you buy them in large quantities, to maybe $11 for a giant tub, only get one and whatnot and what so. Prices vary on what websites or what stores you go to buy them. Either way, any tank that you get, breeder's rack or anything, you gotta make sure that it has a tight lid, a solid lid. Your corn snake will find a way out of its cage, even through the smallest portion, smallest little hole in the cage. It will get out. You gotta be aware of that. And your corn snake can hurt itself trying to get out. It could get stuck trying to get out, and it could rub its nose on the cage and cut and have abrasions on its nose. So you gotta be very, very careful about that. You always want a secure lid. Once the corn snake finds a way out, it will try and keep using that same way out every single time. So you gotta be very careful with that. Real quick before I continue on, I just want to let you guys know there is a difference between aquariums and terrariums. Aquariums are more narrow and sometimes taller, whereas terrariums are a little bit shorter, but they're also wider. So there is a big difference between aquariums and terrariums. Recommend terrariums, if I'm saying that correct. I can never say it right. Recommend those over aquariums. This way it gives more ground room. Like I said, corn snakes like ground room more than, height and stuff. So aquariums, they look the same as terrariums, but they aren't. They're naturally, like I said, more narrow, not as wide. So you want a wide and a long tank for your corn snake. Next I want to talk about is substrates. I do have another separate video about substrates. I will post a link in this video to it. I talk about a handful of different substrates, what I found about them, and I rated each substrate too that I used. So I'll post a link in this video about them, and you could go take a look at that link and watch that video. It is a pretty long video, but describes a lot. Next I want to talk about is temperatures for your corn snake. Temperatures should be anywhere between 70 degrees and 78 degrees Fahrenheit. There should be a cool side and a warm side to your tank during the day. The cool side, let me say, again, is 70 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit on the cool end. Now, if space allows it, and you should, there should be a warm side in the tank also. That should be anywhere between 80 to 85 degrees. This way a snake could adequately go from one side of the tank to the other side of the tank. This way it could properly regulate its body. It's good to normally have like a basking light on that side to get it up to that height, the 80 to 85 degrees. That's what I use. The other side, you don't necessarily need that light there because it'll make it just as warm, so just regular. So the temperatures are real important. If the temperatures vary, your corn snake could have health hazards. It might necessarily drop. It might not necessarily digest its food, is what I meant to say, properly if the temperatures aren't right enough. The only other temperature difference I should suggest is if you're trying to breed your corn snakes, you do want to drop your temperatures down, but I will cover that when I talk about breeding corn snakes in a later video. But ideally, like I said, just to recap, 70 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the cool end of the tank, and anywhere between 80 to 85 degrees with basking light on the other end of the tank. Now, as far as heat pads and stuff like that go, they may be necessary, but I don't recommend them. Heat rocks, I stay away from. They are known to malfunction at times. They're known to overheat. If it's hot to touch for you, it's definitely way too hot for your snake. And what happens is the snake won't know this necessarily, and it could burn itself on these heat pads, heat rocks, whatever it may be. I've never used the heat pad before. They go underneath the tank. I've never used them. I've used heat rocks before. and then I stopped using them after I found that out. But like I said, heat rock, stay away from. There's a heat cable that you can use that I don't recommend putting in the tank either. That felt a little too hot to touch for me. I put it underneath the tank and it really worked out great that way. They do say that you could put it inside the tank, but I would not recommend that. That was too hot to touch for me, the heat cable also. So I put it underneath the tank. Next I want to talk about now is hide places. Should ideally have at least one hide spot in the tank, but really I would say two. One for the cool end again, one for the hot end again, because this way the corn snake could go into the appropriate hide when it wants to. If you have the cool end wide open, the corn snake might not want to go to that side now because it's open, and it'll stress the corn snake out. So you want to have a hide on both the cool end and the warm end. If this way the snake feels secure. That's what you want for your corn snake, is for it to feel secure. So you always want to have proper hind spots, plenty of hind spots for your corn snakes. Another quick thing I just want to talk to you guys about is housing multiple corn snakes in the same tank. Everyone's opinion varies. I did do it when the corn snakes were hatchlings all the way up until they were about a year and a half old. Then I would completely separate them. This is so because if they're in there longer than that, you have potential health hazards and issues. Male and female corn snakes may prematurely mate at a younger age, which can hurt them, permanently damage them, or even kill them. So that is one risk that you're taking housing multiple corn snakes. Another thing is that adult male and female corn snake, you might end up with a random clutch of eggs, which you do not want. You don't want anything unplanned. It can cost you a lot of money. I don't think anyone has the heart to just throw the eggs out. That wouldn't be a right thing to do. And I don't think there's rarely people who are willing to take them in. So you don't want any unexpected clutches, to just happen. So that's one reason why not to house adult corn snakes. Another thing that I've heard, I've actually seen pictures of this too online. You could look online this, Google this. Corn snakes have actually eaten other corn snakes. As I will mention, going after the same prey, but if you don't feed them, they will eat each other. This hasn't happened a lot. It can happen though. Just the fact that it can happen, it should be more than enough to keep them separated. So as I said, you should keep them separated. It's easier to clean up the tanks. It's easier to handle them. You don't have to worry about 10 different corn snakes, jumping around or whatever. And like I said, just to feed them, you want to keep them separated. So there is risk having them together, and there are pros and cons, but like I said, you should not, I am against it, you should not house them together, but I did it when they're just hatchlings only, very small. So, alright, next topic. The next thing I want to talk about is the water bowl in your snake tank. You want to have a water bowl that's large enough for the snake to go in. This way, if it needs to, it can. The whole body go in the water bowl. Some of the reasons why your snake might go in the water bowl: help it shed is one reason. Another reason is to drown mites or ticks. And that's really the two reasons why it would go in there. They don't take baths just to get clean, corn snakes. So if they're in there, it's probably for a reason. The tank might be too hot for it, and might be another reason. But as far as water goes, you should always clean it every day. That's important. If your snake goes to the bathroom in the bowl, you gotta change the bowl water right away, and you gotta clean out the bowl with a reptile-friendly disinfectant. This way, the germs doesn't, go back in the water or get into the water source and can cause health hazards with your corn snakes. So always be aware of what your corn snake's doing around or in the water bowl that you provide it with. Because like I said, it could mean that there might be mites or ticks in there, and you should check out the water, see if you can see them. If so, then you got to take care of the problem as soon as possible. Now the next thing I do want to talk about is feeding your snakes. There's many different ways to feed your snakes, and it's very controversial. A lot of people say, oh yeah, you should take your snake out of the tank when you feed it so it doesn't bite you. It knows when it's supper time or whatever. You know, other people say, oh, just throw it in there, feed it in there, it doesn't matter. There's different views about that and different opinions. Me, depending on what corn snakes it was, I'd either take them out or whatever, feed them in the cage. What I did notice is that, this is from my experience, is that with some of the corn snakes, mostly the 2010 hatch ones, was that when I did take them out of the tank, that to feed them, whenever I reached in the tank otherwise and to pick them up, they weren't that jumpy, they weren't really looking for food, they were calm. That was what I experienced. That, you know, I'm not saying that's what it's going to be like every single time. Now, as far as multiple corn snakes in one tank when you're feeding, you gotta separate them because it could lead to major issues. The corn snakes could decide to go after the same mouse, and they could end up fighting over each other. And what could happen too, possibility, is that when one corn snake bites the tip of the mouse and the other snake goes for the same mouse, you know, possibility, I've only heard one case of this, is that the corn snake will continue eating and start, you know, eating the other snake. I haven't seen it in person. I can't validate it is. I've just read about it and seen a picture of it too. So you gotta be aware of that. You also gotta be aware that if you feed the corn snakes and put them back together, is that the mouse might be inside the snake, and another snake still hungry, you know, sees it or senses mouse scent on the snake, it can go ahead and attack that other snake. So you should separate them and keep them separate for a while. Now, I will be coming out when the next video will be about feeding and handling corn snakes. So in that video, I'll talk detailed about how big the prey that you should be feeding your corn snake and all that. But as far as feeding your snake in the tank, everyone has their own opinions about that. I normally separated them and fed them in other containers. Next I want to talk about is cleaning your tank. Of course, as soon as you see any mess from your snake, you should clean it right away. This includes feces, this includes shedding, it includes everything. You should clean it right away. Every time my snake shed, I always took the shedding out. Every time it went to the bathroom, I always cleaned that. That is known as spot cleaning. You should do this every single day if needed, or when needed. Now, when you want to clean out the whole tank as a whole, I recommended doing it once a month. That's what I would do. And how I clean it is I would do 1 part bleach Clorox, or Clorox bleach, and then the rest water, 10 parts water, whatever. And I would rinse out the tank after I cleaned it with the Clorox bleach until I could not smell it any longer. I've used this technique for 5-6 years, never had a problem with it at all. It always worked out great for me. You could always buy a reptile disinfectant offline, use that to clean it. But you gotta be very careful not to use too much bleach or Clorox when cleaning out your snake tank with it. That's because it can kill your snakes. So you gotta be very extremely careful when using that. I do recommend that you buy a reptile disinfectant that's safe related for that and for the snake. Now I also want to talk about other things you may need. One is being a shed box, and that is important. What I basically used for a shed box was a little plastic box with a hole cut into it with sphagnum moss in it that's dampened. Now, sometimes when your corn snake goes into shed, it might have a rough time because the humidity isn't high enough. It might have a rough time to get the shed off, either in one piece or multiple pieces. It might have a rough time. So what I did was I put the shed box in, and the snake would go in it, hang out in there, and help loosen it up. And then on the way out, it would normally catch one of the sides, not a sharp side. You gotta make sure it's not sharp. but you catch one of the sides coming out of the hole, and it kind of help and wiggle it free of its shed and help it shed. So you always want to have a shed box handy in case. Other people have used just the regular washcloth and had let the snake just climb through your hand while you hold the washcloth and pull off the skin nice and easily. Never ever ever yank on a shed. Don't let the snake take it off by itself. You can assist it, but don't rip it because you can end up hurting the snake. Another thing I want to put in is a lay box. This is if you're breeding. Your female corn snake will look for a very hidden spot to lay her clutch. If not, she can end up holding her eggs and end up getting a health hazard issued with that. And you have to take your snake to a veterinarian then. So you want to have a lay box. Same thing with that. I had a plastic bin big enough for the female and some room for the eggs with sphagnum moss dampened in it, and I'd have it in there for them to lay their eggs in. They always felt secure and they'd always lay their eggs in there, so that was always a good thing. You don't want your female laying a clutch out in the open or having her hold her eggs, because that's a costly mistake that could end up costing big monies, veterinarian bills and all that. And it could potentially kill your snake if she ends up holding her eggs. That's all I got for this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is the first video I used all my updated technology on. Tell me what you think about below. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, leave any comments or questions down below, concerns, any feedback, anything that you thought I missed out on, anything that you think that would be helpful for anyone else, comment down below. Remember guys, this video is here to help you. It's based off my experiences, my opinions I found best worked out for my collection. So please don't criticize this video. Next week's video is going to be about feeding your corn snakes and handling your corn snakes. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you think I did a good job. Thank you for your support, guys. Have a good day.